So here we are accessing the background color. This is just a normal JavaScript code, and we need to change this color. So here I'm going to add equals and concatenation plus, and we pass the color. This color that we got, we pass it here. And finally, we have a callback function. It's an optional function. You can execute it or leave it empty, it doesn't matter. So let me explain this quickly one more time. What we are doing here is that we are first accessing the click me button using the get element by ID. We are accessing this button, and then we are adding here event listener, click event listener, which is going to listen for clicks. Once the user clicks on the click me button, it's going to call this it's going to use this callback function and execute what's inside it. And what's inside it is the change color function. So it's going to call the change color function and pass the blue string to it. So it's going to call this function, right? Once it calls this function, it's going to execute what's inside it. What's inside it is just a Chrome API functions. The first one is the query function, which has two parameters here. The first one is the conditions that we want, and the conditions are the active tab, and we want that tab to be in the current window. If these two conditions are met, then execute the callback function. And inside the callback function of the query function, we will first get an array of all of the tabs that met our condition. And then we get the ID of it, and we pass it to the execute script. Why would we use the execute script? Because the execute script will let us inject some JavaScript code that will change the background color. So the first parameter is we are telling the execute script function that we want to execute this code inside tab ID number whatever. And in our case, it's going to be the current tab, which is going to be Google, and or whatever tab that the user is currently browsing. And then the code is just a document.body.style.background color, and the background color will be changed to whatever color you passed. In our case is the blue color. Let's save everything, but before we test, there is a very important thing that you need to add to the manifest file. Remember that whenever we use a Chrome API, we always want permissions. We always want to pass some permissions so that we tell Google Chrome that, listen, we are going to use some of your APIs and we need your permission. And the permissions here are the tabs, as well as the active tab. Let's now save and go back to our browser. Before we test, I just wanted to let you know that here, whenever you use a Chrome API, it's going to tell you which permissions you need. Here you need the tabs, and you also need here the active tab permission. Here you need to add it to the permissions array. Let's now save everything and test. So here I'm going to refresh and go to Google, refresh again, and click on the icon and click on the click me.